The Forgotten Warriors captain Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the orbital station Genesis, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath her. The blue marble looked perfect from here, unmarred by the scars of ancient wars that had once threatened to tear humanity apart. It was the year 3024, and Earth had not seen conflict for exactly 1,000 years. The Great Reconciliation of 2024 had ended the last war, bringing together nations, corporations, and ideologies under a single banner of peace. What followed was an age of unprecedented prosperity, technological advancement, and cultural growth. Humans had spread to the stars, but not as conquerors. They came as explorers, traders, and diplomats. Sarah adjusted her ceremonial uniform, its deep blue fabric adorned with medals that had no real meaning anymore. She commanded the Earth Defense Corps, a position that had become largely symbolic. Her army consisted of volunteers who trained on weekends, flying outdated ships in mock battles that felt more like historical reenactments than military exercises. At 35, Sarah was one of the youngest captains in the Corps' history, but even she had never seen real combat. Her great-grandmother used to tell stories of the old wars, tales of human ingenuity and desperate courage that seemed like fairy tales now. The galaxy knew humanity as peaceful traders and skilled negotiators, not warriors. "Captain Chen," called Lieutenant David Park from the communication station, "we're receiving an unusual signal from the outer rim. It's not one of our colonies." Sarah walked over, her boots clicking softly on the pristine metal floors. Everything on Genesis was clean, polished, maintained by automated systems that had decades to perfect their work. "What kind of signal?" "Multiple ships, large formation. They're not responding to standard greeting protocols." Park's brow furrowed as he studied the readings. "Captain, their energy signatures are massive. Whatever they're flying, it's nothing like our civilian vessels." Through the massive viewports, Sarah could see the distant lights of Earth's orbital cities, peaceful and glowing like jewels scattered across the darkness. Merchant ships moved in orderly lanes between the planets, their paths managed by traffic control systems that had eliminated accidents decades ago. The sight filled her with a deep sense of responsibility she had never truly felt before. "Send the standard peaceful contact message," she ordered, "and alert Earth Central Command. If we have visitors, we should welcome them properly." What Sarah didn't know was that high above the solar system, hidden in the shadow of an asteroid field, the Vex Consortium's advanced scout fleet was already studying humanity with cold, calculating eyes. Commander Zethrak of the Vex stood before a holographic display showing Earth's defensive positions. His species had conquered 47 star systems, each one falling within days of their arrival. The Vex were methodical, efficient, and utterly ruthless in their expansion across the galaxy. "Analysis complete, Commander," reported his aide, a younger Vex whose scales still showed the bright colors of inexperience. "Human military capability is essentially non-existent. Their weapons are outdated, their ships are designed for cargo transport, and their defensive installations are minimal." Zethrak nodded, his reptilian features showing satisfaction. "As expected. 1,000 years of peace has made them soft. Their reputation as traders and diplomats precedes them. But we see no evidence of the warrior culture that allegedly existed in their past." The scout ships had been observing human colonies for months, watching their daily routines, cataloging their technology, and assessing their responses to minor provocations. Every test had confirmed the same thing. Humanity had forgotten how to fight. "Begin the approach," Zethrak commanded. "Standard intimidation protocol. Once they see our fleet's power, they will surrender without resistance. The Vex Consortium will have a new jewel in its crown." Back on Genesis Station, Sarah watched as her sensors detected the approaching fleet. What she saw made her blood run cold. Dozens of massive warships, each one bristling with weapons and energy shields that dwarfed anything in Earth's defensive arsenal. These weren't explorers or traders. These were conquerors. "Captain," Lieutenant Park's voice was tight with anxiety. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies. It's a surrender demand." The main screen flickered to life, showing Commander Zethrak's imposing figure. His voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to immediate obedience. Humans of Earth, I am Commander Zethrak of the Vex Consortium. Your system now belongs to us. Surrender immediately and your deaths will be swift. Resist and we will make examples of your worlds. Sarah felt something stir deep inside her, something she had never experienced before but somehow recognized. It was an echo of her ancestors, the ones who had fought against impossible odds and won through sheer determination and ingenuity. Her great-grandmother's stories suddenly didn't seem like fairy tales anymore. "Open a channel," she ordered, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. The connection established, Sarah looked directly into Zethrak's cold eyes. "Commander, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Corps. I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. We don't surrender. We never have." Zethrak's expression showed amusement. "Captain Chen, we have studied your species extensively. You have not fought a war in a millennium. Your weapons are toys, your ships are cargo haulers, and your military exists only for ceremony. Do not force us to demonstrate the futility of resistance." Sarah smiled, and for the first time in her life, it was not a diplomatic smile. It was something harder, sharper, inherited from generations of humans who had faced extinction and chose to fight instead. "Commander, you've made a critical error in your assessment. We haven't fought a war in 1,000 years because we chose peace, not because we forgot how to fight. There's a difference." As if to punctuate her words, alarms began sounding throughout the Genesis station. Earth's ancient defense protocols, dormant for centuries, were awakening. Hidden weapons systems that had been disguised as communication arrays began powering up. Civilian ships throughout the system received coded signals that activated long-dormant military subroutines built into their navigation systems. Dr. Marcus Webb, the station's chief engineer, burst into the command center. His usually calm demeanor was replaced by an excitement Sarah had never seen before. "Captain, the old systems are coming online. The ones our grandparents built but never used. They're incredible." Sarah realized that humanity's 1,000 years of peace hadn't been time wasted in complacency. It had been time spent building, learning, and preparing, even if they hadn't realized it themselves. Every technological advance, every peaceful innovation, every moment of creative human ingenuity had been quietly preparing for this moment. The Genesis station began to transform around them. Panels slid away to reveal weapon ports that had been hidden in plain sight. The beautiful observation decks reconfigured themselves into tactical command centers. Even the decorative art pieces throughout the station revealed themselves to be sophisticated sensor arrays and communication equipment. "Commander Zethrak," Sarah said, her voice now carrying the authority of someone who had just discovered she was part of something much larger than herself. "You wanted to see what 1,000 years of human peace has built. Allow me to show you." The first shots fired in humanity's return to war came not from the Genesis station's newly revealed weapons, but from a seemingly harmless maintenance drone that had been working on the station's exterior. The small craft suddenly accelerated to impossible speeds, its maintenance tools reconfiguring into precision cutting instruments that sliced through the shields of a Vex scout ship like they were made of paper. Across the solar system, similar transformations were taking place. Cargo ships revealed hidden armor and weapon systems. Orbital factories began producing military equipment with efficiency that stunned even their human operators. Civilian communications networks became military command and control systems with the flip of a switch. But perhaps most importantly, something was awakening in the humans themselves. Sarah felt it as clearly as she felt her own heartbeat. The warrior spirit that had carried her species through countless challenges was stirring after its long sleep. Not the savage brutality of primitive warfare, but something far more dangerous. The focused, intelligent, creative violence of a species that had spent a millennium learning how to solve impossible problems. Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka, a weekend pilot who had never expected to see real combat, found herself at the controls of a ship that was revealing capabilities she never knew it possessed. Her civilian transport was unfolding into a sleek fighter craft, its peaceful design masking sophisticated combat systems that were now coming online with frightening efficiency. As the first real battle in 1,000 years began to unfold around Earth, Sarah realized that Commander Zethrak had made a fundamental error. He had assumed that peace meant weakness, that a lack of recent warfare meant a lack of the capacity for war. He had not understood that humans had spent their millennium of peace becoming something far more dangerous than they had ever been. As primitive warriors, they had become engineers of conflict, artists of survival, and architects of victory. The Vex Consortium was about to learn why humanity had earned its place among the stars not through conquest, but through the far more impressive feat of choosing peace while retaining the power to enforce it. The fire awakens. The first wave of Vex attack ships swept toward Earth's orbital defenses like a dark storm across the void. Commander Zethrak had deployed his standard conquest formation, overwhelming firepower designed to break enemy morale before the real fighting could begin. It was a tactic that had worked on 47 worlds before this one. It took exactly 43 seconds for him to realize that humanity was different. Captain Sarah Chen watched from the Genesis Station's command center as the battle unfolded with a precision that seemed almost choreographed. The civilian ships that had been peacefully trading between Earth's orbital cities were now revealing their true nature, transforming into a defensive fleet that moved with the coordinated efficiency of an organism defending itself. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Park, his voice filled with wonder. "The automated systems are incredible. Every ship, every station, every platform in the system is connected. It's like they're all parts of a single massive machine." Sarah nodded, understanding dawning on her. Humanity's 1,000 years of peace hadn't been spent in idle comfort. They had been building the most sophisticated defensive network in galactic history, hiding it in plain sight as civilian infrastructure. Every trade route was a potential supply line. Every communication satellite was a sensor node, and every seemingly innocent piece of technology was a weapon waiting to be awakened. Dr. Marcus Webb was at his engineering station, his fingers flying, over controls that were revealing new functions with every passing moment. "Sarah, you need to see this. The manufacturing facilities on Luna are already producing military hardware. Not just weapons, but things I've never seen before. It's like the entire system was designed to transform into a war machine at a moment's notice." Through the viewport, Sarah could see the moon's surface dotted with the bright flashes of industrial activity. Factories that had spent decades producing consumer goods were now churning out advanced weaponry, powered by fusion reactors, that had been running at a fraction of their capacity for generations. The infrastructure of peace was revealing itself to be the foundation of war. Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka's voice crackled over the communication system from her fighter craft. "Command, you're not going to believe this. My ship's computer is downloading combat protocols that are incredibly advanced. It's like someone spent centuries perfecting the art of space combat, then hid it all in civilian navigation systems." The Vex fleet was learning this lesson in the most direct way possible. Their first assault wave, designed to shatter human morale, instead found itself facing a defensive response that seemed to anticipate their every move. Human ships that should have been easy targets were instead proving to be technological marvels, their peaceful exteriors concealing capabilities that shocked even their own pilots. Commander Zethrak watched his tactical display with growing unease as his casualties mounted. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were fighting with a sophistication that suggested centuries of military development. Their weapons were precise, their tactics were innovative, and their coordination was flawless. "Sir," reported his aide, the young Vex's scales now showing the darker colors of fear. "We're taking heavy losses. The human ships are using technologies we've never encountered. Their weapons seem to adapt to our defenses in real time." Zethrak's jaw tightened. This was not how conquest was supposed to work. His intelligence had been thorough, his scouts had been careful, and his analysis had been complete. The humans should have been defenseless. Instead, they were proving to be the most formidable opponents the Vex had ever faced. Back on Genesis Station, Sarah was discovering capabilities she never knew she possessed. The command interfaces seemed to respond to her thoughts, connecting, her to the vast network of human defenses across the solar system. She could see through the sensors of ships light years away, coordinate attacks with the precision of a master conductor leading an orchestra, and deploy resources with an efficiency that seemed almost superhuman. It's not just the technology, she realized, speaking her thoughts aloud to her crew. It's us. We're different than we were an hour ago. Dr. Webb looked up from his station, understanding flickering in his eyes. The neural interfaces, they've been part of our civilian technology for decades. Entertainment systems, educational networks, communication implants. They were all preparing us for this moment, weren't they? Sarah nodded slowly. Humanity had not just built a hidden military network. They had been unconsciously training themselves to use it. Every human who had grown up with the peaceful technologies of the last millennium had been developing the mental capabilities needed to wage war at an unprecedented level of sophistication. The battle was evolving rapidly. Vex ships that had expected to face primitive human weapons instead found themselves confronting technologies that seemed to violate known physical laws. Human fighters moved with impossible agility, their pilots seeming to anticipate enemy actions before they were taken. Human weapons struck with devastating accuracy, adapting their effects to exploit specific weaknesses in Vex armor and shields. Lieutenant Tanaka's fighter squadron had developed tactics that no military academy had ever taught. They moved like schools of fish, each pilot connected to the others through neural links that allowed them to think and act as a single entity, while retaining their individual creativity and initiative. Genesis Command, Tanaka reported, her voice steady despite the chaos of battle around her. We're not just fighting them, we're learning from them. Every attack they make teaches us something new, and our systems are incorporating that knowledge instantly. It's like we're evolving in real time. This was perhaps the most terrifying discovery the Vex were making. Human technology wasn't just advanced, it was adaptive. Every weapon they deployed, every tactic they tried, every strategic maneuver they attempted was being analyzed, understood, and countered by human systems that seemed to learn and improve with every passing moment. Commander Zethrak found himself in a position he had never experienced before, fighting an enemy that was becoming more dangerous with each exchange of fire. His standard tactics were not just failing, they were actively making his opponents stronger. All ships withdraw to safe distance, he ordered, his voice tight with frustration and growing respect for an enemy he had dangerously underestimated. Prepare for siege deployment. If direct assault will not work, we will starve them into submission. But even as his fleet pulled back, Zethrak could see that the humans were not content to simply defend. Ships were emerging from hidden bases throughout the solar system, not the crude vessels his scouts had reported, but sleek, deadly craft that moved with predatory grace. The humans were not just awakening their defenses, they were preparing to take the fight to their enemies. Sarah felt the shift in the battle's momentum as clearly as she felt her own pulse. The defensive phase was ending, and something new was beginning. The peaceful humans who had greeted the dawn were gone, replaced by something that was both ancient and entirely new. They were no longer the descendants of warriors. They had become warriors themselves, shaped by a millennium of peace into something far more dangerous than their ancestors had ever been. All units, she broadcast across the human fleet, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had discovered her true purpose. Prepare for counterattack. It's time to show our visitors what 1,000 years of human creativity can accomplish when we decide to get serious. The transformation was complete. Humanity had remembered not just how to fight, but why they had chosen peace in the first place. They had spent a millennium building something beautiful, and they would not allow anyone to destroy it. The Vex Consortium had awakened something they could not understand and could not defeat. A species that had learned to wage war with the same creativity and precision they had once used to build peace. As the human fleet began its advance, Commander, Zethrak transmitted a message that would echo throughout the galaxy. All Vex territories, this is Priority Alpha warning. Species designation human is reclassified to maximum threat level. Do not engage without full battle fleet deployment. They are not what they appear to be. The message would be too late for the consortium forces already engaged in battle, but It would serve as a warning to every other species in the galaxy. Humanity had returned to war, not as the primitive fighters they had once been, but as something far more dangerous. Masters of both peace and conflict, engineers of harmony and architects of victory. The 1,000-year peace was over, but what it had built would echo through the stars for generations to come. The galaxy would learn a new truth. The most dangerous warriors are not those who know only violence, but those who understand the value of peace and possess the power to protect it.